Welcome to Psyche Magic, a podcast about self-discovery and the subconscious, where we explore the symbolic language of dreams, tarot, and archetypes. I'm your host, Jordan Hale. I'm a psychotherapist based in Nashville, Tennessee. Each episode, I'll hold a casual conversation with various artists and healers about their shadow work practices. We pull tarot cards, unpack a significant dream or dream theme, and discuss their personal healing arts practices. So please grab a cup of something delicious and stay a while. While aspects of this podcast may feel therapeutic, it is never meant to take the place of therapy. Welcome back to Psyche Magic. I am cautiously optimistic that spring has sprung here in Nashville as spring flowers debut their much anticipated first looks in the form of daffodils, irises, and even a couple of blooms on our Japanese magnolia tree in the backyard. March is my birthday month, and I always feel a much needed energy of a fresh start around this time. This winter has been a bit of a hibernation for me on many fronts, including taking a respite from the Saturday salon in its old iteration as I reimagine something new. But this has held consequences, as I have felt somewhat disconnected from my grounding creative practices like singing, playing piano, and writing. What I'm envisioning for the next season and future of the show is building a virtual community around what were the original basic ideas for the salon. A place to come together and create art for art's sake in the spirit of healing and enjoyment. The ritual I created for the salon, for those of you who may not have been a part of it, is simply a blend of intentionally reclaiming and calling in your creative energy, as well as calling circle, which is an ancient pagan-influenced tradition of creating sacred energetic space by invoking each of the elements: air, fire, water, and earth. This involves setting up an energetic boundary, protecting this creative time from the distractions of the outside world. It is also a liminal space where the veil between worlds is thin and access to the collective unconscious flows freely. Think of it as setting the stage to enter flow state. While it has been so lovely to participate in this ritual with you all on our sacred Saturday mornings, I want to make it available to more of you, anytime, anywhere. So we will be launching our virtual salon membership next month via Circle, an online platform that essentially creates a mini social community filled with forums around topics and questions of interest, resources, books, exercises, courses, challenges, artist Q&As, and anything else we can dream up together to help nurture our individual creative practices while simultaneously building relationships and sharing insight with other like-minded seekers. Meaning those who are interested in prioritizing creativity in their lives in a bigger way. This is an attempt to build the kind of group network I have always needed. One in which emphasizing creative practices is a priority and is seen as worthwhile and meaningful, not frivolous and indulgent. I believe that art is resistance, that it literally saves lives, that it is our birthright. I can't wait to build this with you. Stay tuned for our launch in early April. My guest today, Sarah Rodgers, licensed marriage and family therapist, registered drama therapist, and LMFT approved supervisor, is no stranger to creative practices, both in her personal life and in her therapy room. She's the co-owner of Experience Therapy Group, as well as her own private practice, Creative Counseling Nashville, where she emphasizes expressive arts therapy as a means of healing and reclaiming freedom in self-expression. We discuss some of these modalities in detail, including her awesome Improv for Anxiety group, and examine the psyche's critical relationship to safety and exploration that play and creativity can facilitate over the lifespan. The cumulative effect of which includes fostering of safe attachments in relationships to self and others. So much of the work of Jung involved these elements. One branch of Jungian therapy involves literally using toys and a sand tray to illustrate the mental schemas being addressed, which Sarah discusses in the interview as well. I'm also reminded of another pioneer of the field, Virginia Satir, who used psychodrama techniques such as family sculpting to create a dynamic representation of family roles and events via embodied role play. For those of us who have learned to prioritize thinking and analysis over feeling and expression, these types of therapies can be incredibly transformative, moving us into a place of greater integration, balance, flexibility, and wholeness. Our bodies can hold so much wisdom. And when we learn to listen and integrate their communication into our daily lives and decision-making, we are gifted a clearer and broader perspective. Sounds pretty good, doesn't it? So without further ado, let's get into my interview with Sarah Rodgers. All right. Sarah Rodgers, welcome to Psyche Magic. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
We're going to have fun. We're going to have a lot of fun. Sarah and I go way back. So this is like a catch-up / like exploration.
Right.
All the things. All of our favorite things. Sarah, I'm going to have you just briefly introduce yourself, please, for the listeners. Just tell them who you are and what you're all about.
Sure. I'm Sarah Rodgers. I am a licensed marital family therapist. I'm a registered drama therapist. I'm also an LMFT supervisor. And I run a group practice in Nashville called Experience Therapy Group. And I also see clients in my own practice, which is called Creative Counseling Nashville.
Beautiful. So many things. Yeah. We love all of the things.
So many things.
We're going to talk about all of the things because what you do is so fascinating. And I love the niche that you have carved out in our community. I think it's so needed and so wonderful.
Thank you.
You'll love this, Sarah. We'll talk about this a little bit at some point if it feels relevant. But I actually just enrolled in an acting class for the first time. And I knew you were going to like this.
I'm so excited for you.
I've never studied acting like in any kind of even semi-formal kind of way, even though I've always been really interested. So I'm taking, you might be familiar, it's Sanford Meisner's technique of like method acting.
Are you doing that at Actors Bridge?
Yes.
They're so wonderful. It's like,
aren't they cool?
It's such a good spot over there. Yes, they're so like supportive and inclusive, and they work with people all the time who get things out of the training that's not because they're trying to be professional performers.
Yes, exactly. That's the whole point. Like you're going to learn and grow and evolve as a person, and in the way that you show up in the world. It's not all about like, oh, now I have to go be a professional actor.
Right.
It's about all the ways that you can grow and you can show up more presently, more authentically, right? Mm-hmm. Anyway, for me, that's part of what I'm working on, and it feels really good.
Totally. There's so much that you learn about yourself.
Yes.
Through trying to do exercises or try on characters or whatever, you know?
Yes. Yeah. Like responding in a natural, authentic way, not being in your head too much, not scripting too much. I'm such a scripter. I'm like the ultimate, oh my God. I like try to plan everything
but that helps
out.
You.
Right? You know what I mean? Man.
I do, but like, don't we have to seem together? Don't we have to seem like, you know, we all, I know.
It's just so, yeah.
Yes, that's the sound.
I've only taken a couple classes so far, but it already feels very like freeing and it really good. Yeah.
That's so wonderful.
So I
I'm
had to
so
share
excited
that
to
with
hear
you. I knew you would like it. Yay.
that.
So we're going to get into like, the sort of experiential healing quality of these types of creative endeavors and how they can really be a game changer for mental health, emotional health and well-being and personal growth and all that good stuff. And before we get there, we're going to have a little playful creative practice of our own and we're going to pull a tarot card.
Wonderful.
This is fun. Now, are you someone who ever like dabbles in tarot? Is that a thing for you or
Sure.
no?
I think dabble is like a fair word, in and out through the years.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
I love a reflective tool.
Yes, that's how I use it. Exactly. I don't use it as like a way of predicting my future or something. I use it as a way of pulling up some interesting images that I can just reflect and respond to and associate with and notice what stirs
Yeah.
within me when I see them. And that's fun and interesting.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that together today. Sarah, I pre-shuffled the deck and just kind of like kept you in mind and your energy and what I know about you. And then I just pulled a card when it felt right. So the card that I got was the Magician. So I will describe this for the listeners, for anyone who's not familiar with the visuals of the cards. This is the Rider-Waite-Smith sort of classic tarot deck that most of us are most familiar with. But this is card number 1 in the Major Arcana series. So this is very much a beginning point, like sort of that like spark of inspiration, I would say, maybe like in a journey. And so there's this figure. He is wearing this red cloak and he's standing with one arm raised and he has this little kind of a small like wand or scepter in that hand, and then the other hand is pointing below towards the ground. And then in front of him is a table with each of the tarot symbols on it. So the sword, the wand, the cup, and the pentacle. And then there's all this beautiful lush greenery and flowers all around him. So just like quick hot take, Sarah, like what happens for you when you see this card? What are you drawn to? What comes up?
I mean, my brain immediately goes towards like alchemist or something, or like
Sure.
sort of a cross between like alchemist and like the archetype of like the court jester.
Love it.
Right? There's something about like the mischiefy, but also
Yes.
like starting change-y.
Exactly. No, I love that because I do think that there is not only kind of a little bit of a trickster, playful energy.
That's the word.
Right? Like embodied in this card where it's like, I can do whatever I want. Anything is possible. And that's like so exciting. But there's also like a really nice, I don't know, I guess I would say like balance to this card, even just in the way that like his body is positioned and the way that he has like all of these different elements and energies kind of at his disposal. So yeah, like there's this sense of sort of like infinite possibility. And there's even the infinity symbol over his head on the card.
Oh.
Which I think is another just kind of nod to that kind of like boundless potential. So yeah, anything else about that's interesting to you?
I just appreciate an archetype.
You love a good archetype.
Yeah, and this idea of endless possibility, I mean, creativity to me is that sort of thing that we can always move a piece somewhere to create something, even if it's a 2% shift in a 2% area of our life. But we have a little bit of creative power.
I love that.
In most, not all maybe, but in a lot of aspects of our lives a lot of the time.
Yeah, there's a little something. And that is something I talk about often with clients, like from a trauma-informed perspective, like being able to hold this idea that I have choices, right? Like might not be the choices that I necessarily like would love to have at this exact moment, but I do have choices and I can move towards those choices. And the Magician is a reminder that like I can create what I need to create and I can tap into that energy and remind myself that there's possibility, hope. We love him. He's cute. I'm going to like look at him while we talk and just see what else
Great.
he has to say.
Welcome,
Because
friend.
he's fun. Welcome, friend. Welcome, magician. We love you. Okay, now in the spirit of playfulness and
Yeah.
just playing around with ideas, let's look at the dream that you sent, because I think this is a
Oh,
this is a
yeah.
fun one. It's fun because, yeah, there are characters that are like not necessarily present in your daily life, but are representative of like different sort of eras that you've had and experienced. I think that's very common. So maybe just give us a quick synopsis of the dream, if you don't mind.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we'll just kind of, unpack it a little, see what comes up.
Sure. I mean, so how it registered was this scene of like a balcony in like a beautiful jungle setting. It's clearly like a vacation spot, vacation home, nice villa, something like that. So it's a lot of wood and jungly plants in the background. And I am stressed and packing and have my suitcase and I'm looking at the clock and I'm going, we're late for the airport. And my friend is just sitting outside on I don't know if it was a hammock or something soft and relaxing, just sort of looking at me like I had lost my mind. And she was like, just not gonna leave.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very confusing. I mean, there was another person there as well, but they weren't significant. I just knew they were there.
Sure.
They're not in the image. And both friends were sort of just like, whatever, we just won't go. I was like, but we're supposed to go. Like, our flight is soon. We're going to miss our flight.
Why are you acting like this is not a big deal?
I don't understand why we're not just leaving like we said to catch the flight we all booked.
Right. We talked about this.
Right. We had definitely talked about this like the day before. They're like, oh, we have to get up at this time and we have to leave by this time to catch our flight. And then it was like, none of that happened. It was very strange. And I know we missed the flight and they were unbothered.
Yeah.
It was so strange.
Yeah, that was a part of the dream too, is that like we did like miss our flight. And the flight was to go home, right? It was to return from whence we came.
Yeah, like we didn't live there.
Right. I mean, it sounds like it would be a great place to hang out for a while. It sounds beautiful, but it's not home. But you said that one of the key like feelings of the dream was just that like confusion. And even you highlighted that like it's confusion, but with a twinge of also like maybe some betrayal or like a lack of trust or understanding or something, which makes sense.
Yeah, it was strange because the actual people would never, like, this is just strange all around. And if I look at it in reality, right, none of these things match. The time frames don't match. The people don't match. These are not people who would actually just flake in that way. Exactly. But yeah, it felt not just about the flight, but just about like we made plans and now you're acting like we didn't. And I've trusted you to take this trip and now I'm not going to make it home. And there was like this weird broken trust.
Yes, exactly.
Feeling to it.
Yeah, we had an agreement. And you're now pretending like that never happened. It's a little gaslighty, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, it's a little gaslight. It's sort of like it's broken trust and also like hanging me out to dry. Like, what's wrong with you that you think this was the plan?
Yep.
Right? Yeah, very gaslighty.
Right? I know.
Yeah.
We've all, I mean, I think most of us have experienced that feeling and it's a little crazy making. It's a little destabilizing. It's like, what's going on here?
And that's what I remember most from the dream is just her sitting in this like hammock thing, just in this beautiful, relaxed posture, staring at me like I am insane. Just like, how dare I disturb her resting? Right.
Like, you're kind of killing my vibe right now, dude. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about this person. Let's like associate a little bit about like who this person is in your life, what they might represent to you.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting to think about. So this is my friend Jocelyn, who I was very close with and lived with for a number of years in New York, like 20 plus years ago.
Yeah. Okay. New York roommate, like that's already like a vibe.
Yeah. Early 20s,
Oh,
also
yeah.
a
Early
vibe.
20s. Oh, yeah.
Early 20s broke in New York,
Yeah.
also a vibe.
Vibe.
We were all, it was a house full of actors,
Oh, man. Okay.
also a
You're really
vibe.
painting the picture now. Yes.
Yeah. In Williamsburg, like before it was Williamsburg.
Okay.
Um, yeah, it was like a very specific little pocket of time and space and developmental history.
No, it's
And
so true. So true.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So I mean, we lived together for a few years and then we moved into other places and,
Yeah.
just continued on with our lives and we're still friendly, but we don't talk regularly. I probably haven't seen
Right.
her for a few years.
Right.
Like we're not super close, but a lot of love, but we're not actively super close in each other's
Exactly.
lives. So just a random person to have show up in my dream. Like
I
we
know.
aren't going on vacation.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's usually a sign to me, at least in the way that I'm sort of
Mm-hmm.
trained to look at dreams, which is through this sort of
Yeah.
Jungian sort of symbolic lens, is that like
Mm-hmm.
this person isn't in my life. So like if they're showing up in my dream, they're representing maybe an aspect of myself, or maybe even like a form or
Mm-hmm.
aspect of myself and who I am, who I've been. And
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like this time in your life, perhaps, was maybe a bit more chaotic. Could we assert than your current life and lifestyle, perhaps?
Well, what's interesting about it, I think, yes, we can. And also, I would never have flaked on catching a plane,
Sure.
even then. Like, I've
Sure.
always been a rule follower,
Yes.
even
And you mentioned
at
that
that
even
time.
this person, like, that's not like how she was either,
No,
right? Yeah.
she's also like a very responsible, respectful, on top of it human. And I'm pretty sure the other person who was there, even though I didn't see her, I think was another one of our roommates at the time.
Interesting.
Yeah, but also very responsible. Like we
Yeah.
lived together well for years.
Right.
We shared bills. We managed a lot of things together.
Right.
These people are not flaky or not dependable.
Yes. Yes.
So it's very interesting.
I know what you mean. Yeah. For the characters in the dream to be playing a role that's completely like distinct from how you would know them. Yeah. It is interesting.
Yeah.
And while that was, maybe a little bit more of a turbulent phase of life, it still is not, there's no like literal tie here. It's all very nebulous, very symbolic. But you also said, this was something that stood out to me as well, is that there was also this feeling of almost like otherness, like being highlighted, of like,
Mhm.
I'm the only one
Yeah.
who like feels this way, right? Like that was part of it
Yeah.
too.
Very much so. And the truth is, I did feel that way then, but only because they were both like 5 years older than me, which,
Oh my God. Well, at that time, that's a big difference,
yeah.
right?
And they were so great about it.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could be 26 and live with a 21-year-old. They were so,
No, right?
so good to me. I can't even, but it
That's
like,
sweet.
there's a piece of that was also an experience I was having at that time.
Yeah, like that was part of the dynamic a little bit, like not because
Mhm.
of their behavior, but because of that, like that age difference. Yeah, no,
Mhm.
totally. That
Yeah,
makes
they just
sense.
knew more stuff than I did.
Exactly. You've been around the block a few more times, and like at that age, that's really significant. It just is.
Yeah.
You were like fresh
I've
out
been
of
around the block
school.
no time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
totally.
0 time.
Totally. Oh,
Yeah.
so interesting. I'm looking at my notes here and just noticing.
Mhm.
You said that you also thought that this dream was because you're not like as much of a dream analysis person, right? Like not necessarily.
Mhm.
But you said it was interesting
Yeah.
that these themes felt like kind of familiar to you.
So much so. I was like,
Okay.
oh, look, like trust and betrayal, like shock. Oh, look, like feeling othered and somehow different. Like
You're like, ooh, yeah.
I can ping through my entire life with those threads,
Okay, yes.
you know?
Yes. Yes, and our dreams find these creative, odd expressions of these
Mhm.
very familiar feelings that we're continually working with. At
Mhm.
least that's the way that I
Yeah.
see it.
I mean, sure. I think it relates to how I think about healing and just growth in general too. Is like it's that onion thing, right? It's
Yes.
layers, and
The
these
spiral
themes,
too, I call it. Like we circle back
yes.
around to these similar, similar themes.
Yeah, like I don't feel about those themes in my life now like I did when I was 21, let alone when I was 12 or whatever. It's not the same. But the broad theme, the areas of growth that we have in our lives, I believe, like in a way, they're sort of never done.
I agree. I think that we, like you're saying, we learn to relate to them differently, but
Yeah.
they're still just our stuff that's gonna be there. Like,
yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah.
our own little flavors of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely have. I have recurring dream themes that I feel like I've had my entire life. Like, but different iterations of those themes that just unfold over time. And so if you pay attention, it's fascinating. You're like, man, look at little old me just like working through my stuff like over and over again.
Just
We've always been here. We're out
here. Not quitting, not giving. We're just still
quitting.
Working at it, chipping away.
We are chipping away. Oh, it's so true. It's also helpful. It's like, I don't have to like arrive one day. It's okay. I can just keep evolving. Like, that's just what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad actually said to me recently, he's been in a personal growth journey for a very long time. And he was like, I'm pretty clear that I won't get there before something else happens, like I die.
Sure.
But and he said, it's nice to be up to something. I was like,
wait, that's so cute.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
That's so cute.
I know.
We love a dad who's
strange little person.
We love a dad who's doing some personal growth. We love to see it. Yeah. We love to see them being up to something.
Yeah, that idea that like, look, we're chipping away, but like, what else is there to do, really?
Truly. Like no, that's really, I love that. That's adorable and sweet and wonderful. Okay, so great. Yeah. Dream stuff. We'll see if more of it kind of filters into this conversation. But I want to talk about your work. I want to talk about experiential therapy, Sarah. Okay. Like for those who maybe are not familiar, can you tell us a little bit about what makes certain, modalities of therapy, forms of therapy, experiential in nature?
Yeah. So I guess I need to preface this by saying the way that I would talk about this is sort of my own way of talking about it. I'm not like the experiential therapy police.
I hear you. Good.
I haven't written whatever the dictionary definition is.
We want your version. Right? Like that's not,
Yeah. Because I think in my opinion, there's a really broad umbrella of experiential therapies. And I think maybe it includes some things that maybe other people wouldn't include under that umbrella.
Makes sense to me.
But for me, it's sort of any type of therapy that includes or prioritizes your experience of the thing, not just what you think or tell me about the thing.
Yeah.
Right. And so whether that's about how you elicit information from people or how you support them in interacting with their own experience.
Yeah.
You can do both of those things in ways that are experiential, like in other words, eliciting and fostering more of an experience that includes information that might be yielded by the body or by their like creative or intuitive self.
Okay, great.
So I can say more about what that is, but I know that's like
we'll get into
broad,
all of the little facets and aspects of how you all perform these types of therapies and play around with them. But I'm wondering if you would call that eliciting process that you're describing, would you also call that like working with the felt sense in the body? Is that the same thing?
Sure.
Okay.
I think yes and no, because a lot of it is our felt senses. When we think of them, I think more about like somatic therapies.
Yeah.
Right, where you're talking about like sensations or even like where you feel feelings in the body, sort of that idea of interoception, like my internal perception.
The dreaded therapy question, where do you feel that in your body, right?
Yes, yeah. And it's tightness in my chest.
Yes.
Right, that sort of thing. that is absolutely a piece of experiential therapy to me, but I think there are other dimensions as well that have to do more with like creative and expressive art.
Okay, yes, I want to talk about this.
A lot of which also include the body and
Of
some not so
course.
much, but like there's a lot of movement worked into most expressive art,
Of course.
even visual art. You're at least moving a hand or some,
Absolutely.
you're
It's an
doing something to
embodied
create.
experience.
Yeah. So, and then we also include mindfulness influence
Yeah.
therapies in there
Yeah.
because that's a whole way of exploring your inner world, just, that includes beyond just your thinky your thinky parts, right?
Analyze. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. That space in mindfulness to sit back and notice and observe and be more present with sort of what's happening within yourself in the
Whatever
present
is
moment,
here.
right?
Yeah.
Whatever's here. So all of those things to me are about including that like we value the experience beyond just the talking. And don't get me wrong, talking is also wonderful.
Sure.
But yes, that's that important dimension.
Great. Absolutely. Well, it makes sense to me that that's also just a more integrated way of working, especially for those of us who have maybe just lived in our heads for so long, right?
Yeah.
Just trying to get through, trying to survive. And then all of a sudden it's like, wait, I have a body. I have emotional experiences. I have intuition. I have creativity. I can incorporate all of these aspects of who I am. Not just like thinky brain.
Right. Well, we often know more than we realize,
Yeah.
And like there's a lot of examples of that, but a lot of times our body is providing us with information and it would be helpful if we would make note of it.
Especially because I would say from my own experience that as I have, because, okay, for me, I'll be honest, these modalities were not accessible to me at all until I was several years into my therapy journey. And I feel like I need to like normalize that for people. If it's hard for you to access your sort of like physical, somatic, creative experiences regularly, that might be part of your process. Like, you might not be able to just dive right in.
No, it's so important that you say that. And what I would offer is noticing that it's hard for you is the experience that is useful.
Yes, Sarah, exactly. Like that is part of the process of your work. Yes. Like it's okay that it's hard. In fact, it's necessary that you understand that it is. So yes, all of that is just to say that once I got to the point where I could start recognizing more of my sort of like felt experiences and work a little bit more somatically, that's when I started to feel like I had more access to maybe more of my creativity, things like this. I felt like they tend to go together and to kind of work in tandem. So yeah, I would love to hear your take on that and also just maybe some examples of like how these experiential modalities might look and what we might do.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I will say is that it's literally endless.
Yeah.
Because sort of to your magician with the
infinity.
This is an audio medium. Infinity, thank you. Making the gesture. Can't think of the word. With the infinity above his head, like this world of experiential therapies really has an endless amount of iterations that are just a matter of people having an innovation or a creative impulse in a moment to offer it in a specific way, right? There are principles and clinical concepts to be applied, but it's so creative. You can adapt and shift. And so I'm happy to give a few examples. And I just want people to also like use their imagination.
It can be, it can be this free form sort of thing that we find together. Yes.
I mean, even just, I'll share an example from a conversation I had this morning with one of our staff members who recently did a sand tray training. For those who don't know, sand tray is sort of a very specific way of working with a literal sand tray. So like an adult sandbox that maybe sits on a tabletop, blue on the inside with sand. And there are a ton of figures and objects in the room that you can select. And you basically build in the sand tray. There's a prompt of some sort, and you build in the sand tray an expression of whatever that thing might be, right? Whether you're explaining maybe you're demonstrating what your family system looks like, or you are sharing what it looks like when you feel depressed, or whatever it might be. And the person who was doing this work this morning was saying that it was so helpful because she was working with someone who was very, very analytical, and that what they observed in the session was that this person was able to like slow down and access sort of a different perspective because their hands were in the sand.
Right.
They were moving objects. They were externalizing their inner stuff out here, and they were able to see it from a distance and a different perspective, and just have like a different sort of grounded session and discussion.
Yes.
Right?
You're
It's
using
beautiful.
different parts of your brain even in order to work this way. And so it can open up fresh perspectives and ideas and neural pathways that we might not normally be accessing. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the prompts or questions I ask people, the first thought is like, that's weird. And it's like, yes, because I'm asking you to think about it in a way you don't usually think about it.
It's unusual.
Right.
Yeah.
Another recent example I was working with someone on, just moving away from more black and white extreme thinking and trying to find the middle. And we ended up assigning 3 different color scarves to, there's the black, white, and gray, right? And as we talked, I would just sort of pause and say, okay, which scarf are we speaking from right now?
Mm-hmm.
And they need to pause and reflect and then choose, oh, I'm getting sort of over here. I'm making some assumptions. I'm making some strong absolutist statements. Right. Okay, if the goal is to move towards the gray, what do we need to do? What would the white scarf say? What might the gray scarf say? Let's try it on. Let's play with it. Let's generate some ideas, right? Just practicing. It's practicing skill development, but in this way where we have to pause and touch and move and choose using these objects that sort of help ground what those 3 different pieces are.
Exactly. On that note, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Just in case you missed it, this is a gentle reminder that I am now offering Jungian tarot sessions and one-to-one dream coaching. These are individualized intuitive coaching sessions focused primarily on working with tarot and/or experiential dream work, depending on your needs and interests, in order to better understand your inner world and work with the prevalent symbols and synchronicities that are beckoning your attention, guiding you down the path towards your bliss. The insights can be so powerful, and I love having a space to practice channeling intuitive guidance as well. You can book via our website, psychemagicpodcast.com. I am so excited to be able to work with you all in this special and sacred way. You used the word externalizing as well. And so often I think about, gosh, even just in my own experiences in therapy, like as a client, how I go in with this like wadded up ball of like tangential emotions and ideas and issues. And then I walk out and I have like sorted them into a few different like distinct threads and pieces, right? And so it can be useful to have in these modalities actual like physical, visible, tangible representations of some of those things.
Yeah, absolutely. And then sometimes there's also movement, right? A lot of what I'm describing is more expressive artsy, but I'm also somatically trained, and we also do EMDR and brain spotting, and I would include all of those modalities in this broad
You would say
umbrella,
that EMDR counts as an experiential therapy? I would.
I really think so.
Yeah, I would too.
I think so. It's so much about the body.
Yes.
And bringing the body's experience in. I mean, what you're really doing is you're processing felt experience.
Yes. The most powerful EMDR sessions that I have had personally have been ones where I was processing via my body. Like
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know, like
Uh-huh.
brain-wise, logically, what was happening. I just knew that my body was having an experience that was
Mm-hmm.
really important.
Stuff's just moving around in there and
Oh
you can
yeah.
feel it happening. Yeah, I've experienced that as well.
Yeah,
And later on, you go back to the original issue and it feels better.
exactly. My body is not having the same alert response anymore, hypervigilant
Yes.
response anymore. I'm more calm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like something is happening there. I think a lot of this experiential stuff does involve a trusting of the body, especially when we bring in movement. There's a lot of stuff in like drama therapy and psychodrama where we also include movement. So I might have you like, same idea with the black, white, gray, right? Like
Okay.
extreme thinking. Maybe I'm really into right and wrong and I struggle to hang in the middle. I might also say, okay, so the seat you're in right now is X seat, right?
Yeah.
Seat you're in right now is wrong. Let's have you move to the seat next to you. That seat's going to be the balanced in the middle, wise mind space. And then we're going to put this chair on the other side of this couch. And that's the good side, right? And I'm going to have you physically place your body in the chair as we
Love
talk
it.
and identify, right? Because it's a saying in psychodrama that I'm honestly going to forget, but it's something about like when you put the body in motion, it knows.
I love that.
I think that's a very not accurate version, but that's sort of the gist.
But it's true.
And so it's like we don't need to figure it out. We just need to move through it. Okay, so let's imagine we're going to go on this date and we're going to navigate all these extreme self critical thoughts that come
Okay.
up. And let's slow down that process and let's notice with our body, placing our body in these three different seats.
Yeah.
Let's learn about your thinking. Let's learn about your beliefs. Let's learn about your assumptions and your process by moving our body. And it's just different to learn about it that
Yeah.
way and to
No.
explore about it that way.
It's a
Yeah.
whole different level of insight, I would say, just that the body can bring in those moments. And is that so in terms of something like psychodrama, right? How do
Mm-hmm.
we define like what that means or what those sessions
Great.
are?
Yes, that's a great question. So psychodrama is sort of the OG of the drama therapy
Okay.
world. Psychodrama is literally a century old.
Damn.
I know. The first psychodrama was in, I want to say, Vienna in 1921.
Cute.
I randomly know this because we're about to do a psychodrama group here in a few months. So I'm happy to share more about that. But that's
Yes,
what I've got.
please.
I don't
Okay.
I don't usually remember dates, but I happen to know that today. So it was created by Jacob Moreno in the 1920s, and he was the first person to figure out that you could use theater to create intentional therapeutic or social change. And he had a structure that he developed, which is what we know as psychodrama. And there's a lot of technical aspects to it. It's a whole process. It's formal, it's structured about how we decide what's going to get worked on, who the protagonist is going to be, in other words, whose issue we're going to explore, and then how people become enrolled to play characters in that person's drama,
Yeah.
and then what the arc of that drama looks like, and then how it's resolved and people de-roll and how it's processed afterwards. But it's sort of the idea of like, yeah, we can create things in fiction to help you rework something from your real life. So that's also the foundation of this broader umbrella field, which is drama therapy,
Yeah.
which is the intentional use of dramatic tools and techniques
Yeah.
for personal growth and, improvement in mental health.
Sure.
So a lot of the concepts from psychodrama have morphed into being used in all these other approaches to drama therapy that exist now as well. So even though if people aren't following that whole formal arc, they might be pulling a few techniques about character and role and this sort of thing and, using them in their own approaches. And there's so many, there's like an endless amount of drama therapy
There's
approaches
that word
exist
again,
now.
right? It's like the thing with these modalities is that you can work them in endless sort of iterations. Yeah. And that makes sense to me.
Yeah. It's amazing what people have come up with. I mean, there's an approach that is entirely, well, not entirely, but it essentially pulls from improv, but
Okay.
it's therapy. right? There's one that it very much relies on role, and all the techniques evolve around this idea that to be a healthy person, we have to be able to move in and out of a lot of roles. We have to be able to have access to a lot of roles in our life. If I'm stuck in 2 or 3 roles, I'm not doing so well, right? There's the one that I'm mostly trained in is something called the integrative 5-phase therapy model of drama therapy that is about an arc, but it's much more influenced by like, you start off maybe playing more games and facilitating like connection and playfulness and a sense of capacity to work this way, because you don't have to be an actor to do this work. And you slowly build into maybe playing characters or doing scenes or playing with like archetypes, or, I mean, you could use a whole tarot card deck and do drama therapy with those. And maybe you move into more personal, deeper, cathartic, it sounds like, type of dramas. And you move your way into those, right? But it's a little more meeting people where they're at. Like there's all these different ways. Yeah, it's a very cool, unusual, but very cool world.
I know. Okay. Now I want to know, like, how did you find this? How did you get into this? I'm guessing you had some experiences of your own, perhaps.
Well, I was an actor to start off. So I fell backwards into being a therapist because I found drama therapy.
That makes so much sense.
I know.
I love it.
I was working as a teaching artist, a theater teaching artist in the Bronx, and just kept finding that with the kids we were working with high schoolers, that stuff was coming up that was like kind of getting into the therapy world. I mean, we weren't doing that on purpose, but every once in a while things would come up and I'd go, oh my gosh, like, and we would sort of want to be able to offer support, but also not really be able to because we weren't therapists.
Makes sense.
And so it was just really showing me how much, I knew that from my own personal experience, how cathartic it had felt to be an actor and to play characters and to be able to express all these sides of yourself and unleash these different aspects and explore different dimensions and to express, you know, then seeing that with kids a little bit, you know, seeing it with these kids too, where like, oh, there's something here that's really healing and valuable and can help access something that they seem really interested in about themselves.
Sure.
And I didn't have language for it, and I couldn't really go there in that role, but it was just sort of another reminder of like, there's something about the power of this. And I just eventually found that drama therapy was actually a thing.
Right. If only I could incorporate all of these aspects together. Wait a minute. This exists.
Someone already thought of that.
Yes.
Yeah. Drama therapy, I think, became more of an official title in the 70s.
Nice.
Of course.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So it's a relatively new and pretty, you know, fluid field, but there's a whole organization that certifies people, and sort of like art therapy works the same way. You know?
Exactly.
People have master's level classes, do a lot of practice and, you know, like practicum type stuff. It's a big deal to become a drama therapist.
For sure.
There's a lot you have to know. Yes, rigorous. And so I found a program where you could get training in drama therapy and get a counseling master's. And I spent like 2.5 years doing everything in an embodied, expressive drama therapy way.
Wow.
And it was amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I just love, it's so fun to see someone who has found like their specific thing. And it's just like, yes, like this is so right. It's just
I
so
love
fun.
it so much.
I know, I can tell.
Love it, so
it makes
much.
me happy.
Well, what's interesting is like, I am a straight therapist most of the time.
Yeah, sure.
Like, look, I get that this stuff freaks people out and people are not comfortable. And so a lot of what I do on the regular is really teeny little bits of incorporating at least the expressive art stuff. I do a lot of somatics and a lot of trauma work.
Okay.
Too, right?
Yes.
But I'm not up moving around playing characters with people and all that stuff.
I'm
like
with
that's
you.
Too over an edge for just a lot of folks. And I respect that. I really do. But it informs a lot of how I think about therapy. And it also is something where when I can create the space, like this psychodrama therapy group that we're about to do in a few months, or like I do an experiential group supervision, like I help train therapists.
Very cool.
Using a lot of this. And it's so enjoyable. Like when I get to do it like fully for a day or many hours or whatever it is, yeah, it feels like home. It's wonderful. And I love being a regular therapist too, luckily.
Sure, sure.
But this space is just like a special fun space.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
Like maybe it's like where
awesome.
your dream space is.
Oh my God. No, for real. For real. I feel, yeah, I was going to say I can relate because I feel like I love incorporating dreams and tarot and those kind of juicy, archetypal, symbolic things. But yeah, that's
Mhm.
not like the majority of what I'm doing in my therapy room, right? Like it comes up in
Yeah.
these little bites, like little
Mhm.
moments, but that's not all, that's not all we're doing. But okay, tell us more about these groups, Sarah. I want to hear
Oh
more
yeah,
about,
yeah.
yeah, the upcoming things that are happening.
Well, so this has been a really like this is obviously something I love so much, and I've developed over time because I've had individual clients where we have done all drama therapy all the time. It's been rare, but it's happened. And I love it, but what I have learned is that individual drama therapy is way too much of a load on me as the
Okay.
therapist. It's hard to explain, but it's so much generativity and holding so many characters and pieces and spaces and I
Yeah.
just there are people who do it and they maybe don't feel the same way I do. Like whatever that is, we all as therapists just sort of have to figure out our energy balance.
We have to work with what, yeah, with what we've got and what we need. And yeah.
Yeah. And so for me, I've sort of come down on okay, like I'll do that once in a while when it makes sense, but the more juicy, satisfying version of this for me is in a group
Okay.
with more bodies, more people, more ways to have the group support and create the experience together as opposed to being one person holding all of that for another
That's a
one
good
person.
point. That makes a lot of sense, actually. Is there's a lot of probably like co-creation and support happening. It doesn't have
Mhm.
to all fall
Yeah.
on you. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a couple of things I've gotten to create, I would love to have I don't know if I've told you about improv for anxiety, but that's been around for a few years.
Okay, tell us about this. I feel like I've caught
So
like little inklings of this, but I want to know everything. Tell us more.
yeah. So improv for anxiety, actually it's been 5 years
Amazing.
now that this program has existed, which is incredible.
Yes.
I partnered with this woman named Emma Supika, she runs a nonprofit called Unscripted, which is an improv access and education nonprofit. So they do improv in senior centers, after school programs, also with like, I think they bring it into like Vanderbilt, maybe some sort of graduate level
Sure.
teachers or medical folks, like to help learn about bedside manner. I forget what it is, but they're doing this in a lot of different spaces, right? With a lot of belief that improv, in and of itself, has a lot to offer people just for wellness, right? And
Yeah.
human connection. And so I partnered with her because of me being a drama therapist, and we developed a program. It's a 6-week improv class, but it's called Improv for Anxiety. And it's this hybrid. It's not therapy, it's just a class.
Right.
Anybody can take it.
Right.
And it is sort of like a little bit of an exposure therapy type experience for people who feel anxious in a playful setting. And we play games. Every week is on a certain theme of psychoeducation. There's a lot of information and things you learn about anxiety and about different ways to manage it and, different aspects of sort of what contributes to it.
Yeah.
And then we experience, right? We put you in a situation where then maybe you feel that thing a little bit, but in a silly game where there's no stakes.
Right. Get thrown in like, okay, go. Yeah.
Right. Right. You probably will be wrong, but you're going to be wrong yelling out names of cereal in a game.
Like, it's okay.
Like, stakes are low. Stakes are
Stakes
low.
are low.
Yes, and there's playfulness and silliness, and the stakes are low, and we're all in it together. And so it's just this experience for people to like help improve how they feel in social settings about making mistakes, a lot of the things that commonly trigger anxious states. And yeah, it's every time we get like the best, sweetest feedback. It's so wonderful.
I can see how that would be so healing and helpful. Just to be able to let yourself let go a little bit and realize that it's okay. Like,
Yeah, like it doesn't have to be that serious, y'all.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
okay. It's okay to be kind of silly. It's okay to make a mistake. It's okay. Like there's something very humanity building, I guess, in all of that, right? Like we're all just weird people
Exactly. Like,
bumbling
can we
around together.
just normalize that and just be okay with that?
Right.
And yeah, let the stakes not
Right.
feel so damn high all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And if anything, improv gives this great opportunity. Mistakes get to be celebrated. Sometimes something going sideways is like the best, funniest, most enjoyable thing that's happened
Yeah.
all day.
Yes, it can bring about something even more interesting and
Mm-hmm.
fun and exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I love
Yeah.
that.
Please come take it. You can come take it
I mean,
anytime.
now that I'm
We
dabbling in the world of, acting and Meisner and like being able
mm-hmm.
to show up in that way, I feel like
Mm-hmm.
I might
Yes.
be able to do something like that. Because before it was too scary. But now I've dipped a toe
Sure.
in, right? That's how it works. And then you're like, this is
Mm-hmm.
not so
Mm-hmm.
bad.
Oh, this is like not gonna kill
This is
me.
fun, actually.
Yeah. Well, and there's a little overlap with Meisner. Improv is also a lot about presence and paying attention to other people
Yeah.
and just noticing what's happening in the moment.
Responding.
Yes, responding. So, if you want everyone to check it out, but I always encourage therapists to come check it out because
That's great.
it's been really great for people. And it does, it's for people who maybe are self-identified as anxious. You can be wherever you want to be on that spectrum and
Exactly.
probably be able to get something out of the class. It's not clinical, but like we all have anxiety. We all have
Sure.
self-critical thoughts, right? So I'm really proud of that program. It's really great. We have
You
some
should be.
wonderful
It's
therapists,
amazing.
and
Yeah.
with it's co-taught by a therapist and an improv
Nice.
facilitator. So you always have both of those people, which is also really cool. But yeah, it's non-clinical, and so I'm excited to be building a group now that is clinical, meaning
Yes.
like it's meant to be a therapy experience.
Yes.
So can go deeper, can be much more personal,
That's right.
might be more raw or emotional, or work on something that's maybe a little bit more sensitive. And so that I'm doing with another therapist here named Sean Coyle. So he's trained in psychodrama. And psychodrama is one of the drama therapy methods that I studied in school and have worked with. But I'm bringing also the drama therapy piece. And so the goal is we're doing sort of an intensive, structured group for anybody who's sort of ready to those things where this is sort of the onion layers or the spiral. Like sometimes you hit a point in that spiral with that theme where like it's just stuck and you can't figure out how to move it, right? And so this can be a really cool, different structure for people who are like, I know that there's this thing that I want to work on. Like there's this sticky spot in my growth path and I'm ready to like get into it. And so between the psychodrama and the drama therapy, we'll be doing a lot of like getting up, being in our bodies, playing characters, maybe playing inner emotions, maybe replaying pieces of our lives. Depends on the situation. But we're going to work the whole group into being able to do that together. And so everybody will get time to work on their own personal thing, but also it's incredible getting to be a part of a group like that. And you never know what I might get after I played your mother in that scene. I was just supporting, right? I'm just being a part of the group, but I'm taking on roles and playing parts in other people's stories. And the amount that you can learn and gain from that
Sure.
alone is like so special.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Amazing. I love it. Yeah. Is that group now, is that specifically for
Mm-hmm.
therapists training or is that just like anyone can join?
No, this is for clients. Like
Okay, this is for
anybody
clients.
who
I don't
wants
know
to be
why
a
I was thinking
therapy
that.
client.
Okay.
No, I know it's sort of confusing because I also do a lot of trainings on this.
Exactly. Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
you do.
Yes, it's also confusing because I do this experiential group supervision, which is for therapists in
Yes.
training.
Okay, I'm with you.
And we work that way on like case questions or challenges with
Which is
clients
also
or
great.
what have you. Yeah, it's really
Okay.
beautiful.
But this specific group
work.
is like anybody can sign up.
Yes.
This is for, clients,
Yes.
people who want to work through some stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. And we tried to
Yeah.
structure it in a way. It's in April and it's it's like we're starting with a Thursday night for a couple of hours so we can sort of start to warm up, start to move towards what we're doing. And then we've got 3 Saturdays doing about like 6 or 7 hours of work each
Love it.
Saturday. There are a lot of, it's hard to get this locally in this kind of way without having to go to like a specialty residential retreat center or
I was gonna say it feels pretty like intensive, in a good way. Like, yeah.
yeah, and there's an extensive intake process and we want to make sure it's right for people, but we're just excited to offer it because also On-Site does a lot of this work in their programs, and sometimes people get out of On-Site programs and they go, where can I go to do more of this work?
I'm with you. No, that makes so much
Yeah,
sense.
there's
It's
a
like a
community.
unique type of offering. Yeah. Without having to like go sign
Yeah.
up for a retreat. Yeah.
A $10,000 retreat
No,
or
for
whatever.
real.
Which, like,
No, that's like not even an exaggeration.
yeah, which like if you can do it, oh my gosh, do it.
Great. But like,
that's
this is a
not
little
in
more
everybody's.
accessible.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
So excited about all of these offerings. It's just been really nice to create spaces to like really do this like, this drama therapy
Like
work
dig
that I
in.
love so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay. So yes, we will post all the info for that and make sure that
Thank
we've
you.
got that all listed because that starts in April.
And
Fabulous.
come hang, come join.
I know, right? Okay, cool. Yeah. Maybe this is a
Yeah.
place that a note that we can kind of leave it on, actually,
Yeah.
because this just kind of ties together a lot of what we've been talking about. But I feel like I just want to hear from you, someone who does this regularly, like day in and day out.
Yeah.
I want to hear your take because clients ask me about this a lot, and I have my personal version of like what I think and what I've experienced, but I'd be curious your take. I want to know and understand a little bit better. What is it, do you think, about like creativity and play specifically
Yeah.
that can be such an essential part or like a gateway for emotional healing for people?
Yeah.
Like, I
love
don't
that
know.
question.
I have a lot of thoughts, but I want to hear from you.
I love that question. And I sort of unfortunately have like a complicated 2-part answer.
Yeah, great.
Because I think you're speaking to a couple of things. I think creativity is a way of accessing and knowing. And playfulness is a really important piece of creativity and also of like our humanity.
Yes, I agree.
They all can go together, but I think the playfulness is, there are some people in the drama therapy world who study playfulness,
Yeah.
which is amazing.
Yeah.
I know there's actually a National Institute of Play.
Love.
And they've done some really incredible studies, including, I'm just going to share this because I think it might blow your mind, like it blew my mind. They did a study using mice or rats, love for those friends who helped us learn this.
Tricky. I know.
But they disabled the part of the brain that allows for play.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. And then they, so these rats are in some sort of environment, a cage, whatever, and they introduced a threat signal in the form of, I think, a cat collar. It smelled like a cat. And the rats or mice, I forget, they all run away, right? Well, what a normal rat would do is slowly, at some point, maybe peek their head out, sniff around, check it out, maybe re-engage.
Yeah.
Come back out when they're hungry, assess that the collar is not there, there's no cat, move on with their life, right? Well, the rats that didn't have their ability to play anymore never came back out to see
to even investigate.
No. And so they starved.
Wow.
It's like horrifying.
I know, right?
It's like upsetting.
It's like, but also extreme and powerful.
It illustrates that like play, and I always, my practice is called Creative Counseling Nashville, and people are like, I'm not creative. I'm like, I'm not talking about you making a pretty piece of artwork. I'm talking about this the same way I'm talking about play, which is like our ability to like explore, to be curious, to try again, to re-engage, to reapproach. All of that has to do with how much we can access play.
That's right.
Our ability to adapt has to do with our ability to play. It has to do with a lot of other things. We need to feel safe in order to be able to access play, right? So it's so good for us in all these on all these different dimensions. It's a really important indicator of health. And playfulness can help allow access and safety to things that maybe wouldn't be if it wasn't in a playful setting.
Sure.
Right? There's that side of it too. So obviously I have a lot to say about play.
I know. And I'm so glad I asked you because you are blowing my mind right now. Very much so.
It's such a special thing. Like, I don't know. I look around your world today, and just notice, I don't know, even like the banter with a staff member or the ability to laugh at like an awkward phone call, or we're sort of joking about like having to start a little late because of the tree service showing up, right? Like,
yeah,
that makes all of those things so much more smoothly. They're allowed to exist more smoothly in our lives than, oh my God, the tightening and the lack of adaptability that sometimes
I know. Yes, the rigidity. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that. I love what you are teaching us about play and how to look at it through the example of the study that you gave is that play is essential to survival, we could say.
Yeah.
I believe that because what I'll just say briefly about my own experience is that a lot of my personal work and healing has been around sort of like codependency stuff. I'm involved in like Al-Anon and groups like that. And so much of what we do is like retraining ourselves how to play and enjoy ourselves and not take everything so seriously all the time and stop trying to like help everybody else all the time and do something nice for yourself, do something enjoyable for yourself. And the irony is that then you can actually like show up even better in a more boundaried way and keep yourself more healthy as you go. So play is just, it's necessary. It's not just like a frivolous luxury.
No, it sounds like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's also,
as adults, that's like how we think of it. Like, oh, please, I've got bigger fish to fry.
Oh, how silly. Why would I do that? What would that accomplish? What would I produce? Right? But the other thing is when you remember, and I mean, look, it's been a minute since I was in grad school, but if I remember correctly, it's at least maybe Winnicott, and I'm sure a few other people talk about how children play is the way children learn.
Yes. Like literally.
Right? It's literally the act of playing, the act of pretending to play house, to play doctor, to play whatever it is, right? To pretend, right? When they mimic and we play the games and they learn how to clap their hands, like play is the language of learning and children's like development.
Yeah.
And so that's the other, I think, foundational reason that we forget that like we still need that. This is a natural way that we learn and relate to our world and learn about ourselves is through trying things on and exploring and playing.
Yeah.
There's so much we can gain from that. Yeah. It's not just a silly kid thing to do.
No, we're made for it. Yeah.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes. And so I think to your point, the like expressive.
I love it. I knew you were the one to ask about this. Yes. Play. Okay. Well, yes. So I think that's a great place to leave it. I think that's just such a nice note to end on. But I know that listeners are going to want to connect with you and learn more about your work. So please just share places where they can find you online, any other upcoming stuff you want to share, just anything you want to share with us now, please.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, look, we have other groups and things. If people want to access Experience Therapy Group in any way, whether that's individual therapy, couples therapy, various group therapy options, you can find us at experiencetherapygroup.com. You can Google Experience Therapy Group. The word experience, right? It alludes to the experiential, the value of the experience. So if you just remember that word, you'll be good.
Yeah.
Experience Therapy Group. Because it's nice to have services where your service provider at least shares these values. Like if these are things that are meaningful to you, right? If you value your mind-body connection, if you value expressiveness and playfulness, and you want to cultivate those things, you think that's important in your life, maybe one of our providers can help you out, right?
Yes.
It's a fun, special little corner to be in our little mental health world.
It's such a special group of people you've assembled, Sarah. It's really fantastic.
And of course, if people want to find me, I'm also at Creative Counseling, but I both exist and I am involved in both. You can find me easily at either place. You just send us a message. We're a small group. It will get to me. yeah, I'm always happy to connect with people about whatever. It's been really cool to get to have opportunities like this, and taught a class on this at Vanderbilt. And, there's
Cool.
been lots of spaces where I've gotten to like share about all of this. It's a dimension of all of our wellness that I think people are really interested in. So that's really exciting to be a
Uh,
part of. And it's been so nice to
yes.
talk about.
I love it, Sarah. When I think about this type of therapy and healing, I think about you and your crew. Like this is the vibe. This is what we're doing. And it's beautiful. Okay.
I
Well,
love it.
yes. So we will link to all of these things that we mentioned, all of
Cool.
these upcoming offerings and websites, etc.
Yeah.
We'll be sure to have all of that handy for you guys because I know you're going to want to connect with Sarah because she's the best.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again for being here. This was so fun.
You're so
I knew it
welcome.
was going to fly by, but it was so nice to get to chat with you, Sarah. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's so fun to get to. This feels like a very indulgent conversation, but in the best way.
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
No, I feel that. We both have our
Appreciate
little
it
like
so
hand
much.
on our
I
hearts,
know.
like love. That's a wrap for this episode. Thank you again to my guest, Sarah Rodgers. May play and laughter stay centered in your amazing work and in your life. If you haven't already, please take a moment now to subscribe, rate, and review us on your podcast app of choice. It really makes a difference and helps other people find the show. We'll see you back here next month with another amazing guest. If you believe in this work and want to support the continuation of our show, please join us on Patreon. There, we are building a community where you'll find bonus dream work exercises, guided meditations, fun minisodes, and so much more. That's patreon.com/Psyche Magic. All links are included in show notes. We hope you'll also follow along with our shenanigans on Instagram and TikTok at Psyche Magic Podcast. Psyche Magic was produced and recorded by me, Jordan Hale. Editing for this episode is by Masuzu Inaga. Our theme music is by Young Summer. Artwork is by Annika Murphy. Special thanks go to Daniel Higby, Grace Fuse, and Michael McMillan. Thank you so much for listening. I'll leave you with a question. If you must sleep through a third of your life, are you willing to sleep through your dreams too? Get your dream journals out, y'all. Until next time.